I'll never forget the look on my kids' faces when the security guard handed me that piece of paper, a suspension notice. Our entire family was banned from the community pool for the rest of the summer. My daughter's eyes filled with tears. My son stood frozen, not even breathing, and standing behind us. HOA President Anna Lynch smirked, giggling with friends as she pulled in floaties, speakers, and toys, the same one she had banned all other children from playing with. That's when it dawned on me. This wasn't about pool rules. It was about control, power, and humiliation. And Anna was loving every minute of it. But what she didn't know, my name is Nolan Owen, and I don't take any guff when someone is trying to push my family around. 20 years of experience in construction taught me one thing. When the system shuts the door, you don't wait for it to open up again. You build another door. So when the HOA shut us out of their pool, I got out my tools, poured some concrete, and built something much bigger than they ever dared dream. And then what happened turned the entire neighborhood on its head. But first, a little background on this crazy tale. Let me know in the comments. Where are you viewing from, and what's the current time? When my family initially settled in Maplewood Heights, it was like paradise, pure suburbia wrapped in sunlight and white picket fences. Every morning, sprinklers drew rainbows across perfectly manicured lawns. The sidewalks shone, and the crown of them all sat smack in the middle, the Olympic-sized community pool. That pool was the pulse of the community. It was why I signed up for those torturous HOA dues, $4.25 a month. Expensive, yes, but well worth it for summers of giggles, water, and memories of youth. My 3 children, Jason, 12, Emma, 9, and Liam, 7, cherished that pool. I'd return from lengthy days on the work site, dust-covered, and before I even had a chance to sit down, I'd hear, "Dad, let's go swim." Mia, my wife, would pack towels, snacks, sunscreen, and off we'd stroll together as a family. The gurgle of Marco Polo, splashing water, and parent conversation under umbrellas filled the atmosphere. Jason joined the swim team, Emma and Liam took lessons, and for the very first time, I felt that we belonged somewhere, a community. Then, the president of the HOA was George Matthews, a retired school teacher with a whistle tied around his neck and kindness in his eyes. He had one rule. That's what summer sounds like. He thought the pool wasn't so much an amenity. It was where happiness resided. George smoothed everything out. If a disagreement arose, he resolved it with patience and sense. Everybody fit. That pool wasn't a luxury, it was a heartbeat. But like all the best things, it didn't last. When George told us he was relocating to Arizona to be near his grandkids, something within me constricted. The HOA scheduled a special election to replace him, but I hardly listened. Deadlines at work, kid schedules, I assumed the neighborhood would elect some other family-oriented leader. I couldn't have been more mistaken. That's how Anna Lynch swept in. Late 50s, pencil pantsuits, a silver bob that never left its place. She lived by herself in the biggest house on the corner and smiled as frequently as it rained in July. Her first HOA meeting was more of a corporate coup d'etat. She entered bearing a 3-inch binder with operational improvements stamped on the cover. Then she uttered the words that changed everything. "This community has been operating without correct form. That changes now." I should have paid attention to the alarms then. Her structure arrived quick, and it arrived brutal. The pool, which used to ring with laughter, became a rulebook jail cell. She added adult swim hours during the day, 10:00 a.m. to noon, and again 4 to 6 p.m. peak times for children to cool off. She prohibited toys. Outside of designated times, no noodles, no inflatables, no fun, unless Anna deemed so. Signs flashed overnight, quiet voices only. And even laughter became a transgression. And the icing on the cake? Any child under 16 had to take a swimming test, given by Anna herself. She wasn't a lifeguard, not certified, not trained, but for some reason, she got to decide who was qualified to swim. I first attempted to let it go. Rules are rules, after all. Perhaps it wouldn't be so terrible. But along came Memorial Day weekend. The kids ran to the pool, towels streaming behind them like superhero capes. Emma leaped in with a happy splash, and in a matter of seconds, a whistle cracked the air, The teenage lifeguard blushed and directed a finger at a new sign, "No splashing allowed." The next week, Jason lingered in the pool 5 minutes after 11 o'clock, officially invading Adult Swim. 2 days afterward, I opened the mailbox to a $50 fine. By mid-June, things were absurd. Emma laughed at something her little brother said, a sweet, harmless sound. Anna's friend Elaine, clipboard clutched in her hand, marched over like a prison warden and chastised her for excessive noise. We were asked to vacate. Supper that evening was subdued. Emma gazed down at the plate in front of her. "Why doesn't Mrs. Lynch like us?" she breathed. I didn't know what to say. Anna wasn't imposing rules, she was relishing them. The pool had become her kingdom, and we were her subjects. That was when I'd had a halt. I rounded up 15 families. We signed a petition, and at the next HOA meeting, I appeared prepared for battle. On one side, spent parents begging for justice. On the other, Anna's supporters, applauding like trained seals. I set down the petition. "We all pay the same fees," I declared. "But these regulations penalize families with children. This pool is for everyone." And it didn't even flinch. She went through the papers, shut the folder, and spoke. "Isoli, if your children are not able to conduct themselves properly, you can always put up a private pool." It was her laughter that echoed from where she was sitting. That's when I realized she wasn't a control freak. She was challenging me, and that was her first blunder. Because I, Nolan Owen, was going to demonstrate to Anna Lynch what it's like to attempt to drown a builder's family in regulations. If she wanted to be queen of the pool, I was going to construct my own kingdom. I wasn't building this for my children. I was building it for every family Anna Lynch had trodden upon under her so-called regulations. Meanwhile, that evening at the diner, I pulled out a napkin and began to draw, as though my hands already knew what to do. A splash pad for the children. A curved slide that flowed smoothly into a landing pool. A waterfall feature for noise and tranquility. Shaded benches for moms and dads. Safety fencing that exceeded city ordinance. And a name that would hurt every time Anna would hear it. By the time my coffee had gone cold, the words were scribbled across that napkin. Project Splashback. I knew it would be no walk in the park. Permits. Equipment. Crews. Long hours. But for the first time since Anna bulldozed into Maplewood Heights with her rulebook and self-importance, I was free. Because this wasn't about combating her game anymore. This was about remaking it. That evening, I called Carlos and Maria. "I'm not speaking petitions anymore," I told them. "I'm constructing something Anna can't control. And when it's finished, every family in this neighborhood will once again have a place to swim." Carlos whistled low and breathy. "You're serious, aren't you?" "Dead serious," I replied. Maria smiled softly. "If you succeed, Nolan, you won't simply be constructing a water park. You'll be restoring a community." And there, in front of me, I knew this was bigger than revenge. This was about restoring things to people that Anna had taken. The vision stayed as clear as day when I woke up the next morning. Before Mia and the kids got up, I took a tape measure and went out into the backyard. The lawn was soggy from last night's rain. The air was rich with earth and potential. I paced around the perimeter, charting it all out in my mind. Slide over there. Splash pad over here. Benches along the shade line. The more I walked, the more it seemed like reality. My children had lost their summer, but perhaps, just perhaps, I could provide them with something far better. No lifeguards glaring at me. No whistles blowing. No clipboard dictator stalling violations. Just freedom and water. Lots of it. I told Mia about it at breakfast. She arched an eyebrow. "Nolan, this is costly. And what if the HOA sues you?" I reached across the table and pushed the plat map over to her and grinned. "They can't. This corner isn't covered by the HOA. I double-checked with Marcus. So long as I get city permits, we're covered." She read the papers, then smiled in spite of herself. "And you really expect to develop an entire water park out here?" "Mia," I laughed. "I've developed half the office complexes in this county." "A water park?" "Child's play." The first permit was applied for by lunchtime. Marcus vowed to get it through quicker than normal. "I've watched what that lady's been doing," he said. "If anyone should get a break, it's you." Once permits were rolling, I went to the drawing board. Literally. I pulled out my old drafting table, grabbed new graph paper, and drew until my pencil was a stub. I wanted Project Splashback to be something bigger than a backyard pool. It had to be a statement. So I constructed a splash pad with frolicking water sprays, a sleek, curved slide that deposited kids gently into a shallow, padded pool, and a rock waterfall that served as sound therapy for exhausted parents. Surrounding it, high safety fence, locked gates, non-slip decking, solar panels for warming, and shade sails for comfort. And just to rub it in, a little cabana for towels and snacks, the sort that leaned over to me and said, "This isn't a pool, it's an experience." That night, I invited the kids to the living room. When I laid the sketches out on the table, their eyes widened. Jason leaned forward, jaw open. "Wait, this is going to be in our backyard." Emma applauded. "Can we have our friends come?" Liam was bouncing so hard the couch shook. "I want the slide." "Dad, can I go first?" Their joy, that spark I hadn't seen in weeks, hit me like jet fuel. Anna had crushed their summer, but now I was going to bring it roaring back. Within days, I started calling in old favors. A supplier in Richmond gave me a discount on pumps. A Maple County concrete crew volunteered for night shifts. A landscaper friend dropped off free sod and plants. The work wasn't starting out, it was picking up, and in our kind of neighborhood, news spread quickly. By day 3, mothers with strollers were slowing, looking over my fence. One of them shouted out, "Nolan, what's happening back there?" I smiled. "You'll see soon. Let's just say your children may have a new favorite hangout." On day 5, the ring of jackhammers filled the air in Maplewood Heights. Backhoes roared. Concrete mixers droned. My children sat on lawn chairs, sipping lemonade, clapping like it was their own personal halftime show. But naturally, not everyone was applauding. That night, I spotted her, Anna Lynch, striding down the sidewalk, clipboard in front of her, 2 board members walking on either side of her like flanking guards. "This building has not been sanctioned by the Architectural Review Committee," she barked. I wiped my hands on my jeans and grinned. "Good evening, Anna. Interesting thing, you have no jurisdiction over this section of my property." I passed her copies of the city permits and zoning approvals. "All legal. All allowed. Beyond your control." She went through every page, her expression growing dark. "This must be some sort of attempt to undermine HOA power. Feel free to call your attorney," I told her. "Mine's already waiting in the wings." Her teeth ground. Her eyes thinned. And then, through clenched teeth, "We'll see about that." She wheeled and stormed away. The following morning, I received an envelope in the mailbox, a cease and desist letter. I did not bat an eye. I forwarded it to my lawyer, Evan Marks. Evan responded the same day. "My client's project is completely compliant with city code. Any further interference will be considered harassment." Crickets. For the first time, the HOA had no words. Construction came thundering back. Concrete set. Plumbing was tested. Pumps were put in. Safety fences went over code. At week 2, you could see it from the street, the waterfall shining in the sunlight, the slide shimmering like a ribbon of silver, the splash pad jets quivering to spring. Kids stood on their bikes, gawking. Parents whispered, "Is this really happening?" But Anna wasn't finished. On the 4th day of concrete construction, she came back, accompanied by 2 board members and a guy with a camera. She gestured toward me as if I were on trial. "Stop right now. You are desecrating community aesthetics. You will be fined every day until you stop this nonsense." I didn't even glance up from my blueprints. "Be careful with those shoes, Anna. Cement dust destroys leather." Her face grew red. She clicked her fingers. "Record everything. This is evidence." I stared her straight in the eye and handed her another file. "City zoning. Stamped. Signed. Legal. And incidentally, your cameraman is trespassing." Her smile went. She knew she'd lost again. "This isn't over," she snarled. "You're right," I said. "It's just starting." That evening, another letter, another threat. But my attorney took care of it with one sentence. "All future contact must come through my office." The HOA remained silent thereafter. Anna's final act of desperation was 2 days later, when a county health inspector's van pulled up in front of my residence. I braced myself for the worst, but the inspector grinned. "Routine check." He tested the water. checked the drains, inspected the fence. After an hour, he handed me the report. Full compliance. He even laughed. Honestly, this is cleaner than most city pools. Outside, I spotted Anna standing with arms crossed, furious. She had sent him, and it backfired magnificently. By week 3, Project Splashback was almost finished. The jets glimmered in the sunshine. The slide shone like a promise. The waterfall whispered gently over stone. And for the first time this summer, I sat in my lawn chair, gazed out over my handiwork, and grinned. Because the queen of Maplewood Heights had lost her throne. The work lights hummed all through the night, casting long shadows over new cement. I shut my eyes momentarily and tried to envision it. The giggles, the splashes, my children dashing in the water, their happiness utterly unobstructed. No buises, no rules, no HOA patrols anywhere in view. Just honest, unadulterated joy. And the next morning, that dream became a reality. By 8 a.m., while the crews finished pouring the last slab of concrete, a group had begun to assemble along the sidewalk, parents grasping coffee mugs, children jumping with anticipation, teenagers attempting to peer over the fence. They weren't curious anymore. They were interested. Carlos Rodriguez emerged in front of me with a smile. "We heard you're dubbing this Project Splashback. When's the opening day?" I chuckled, wiping sweat from my forehead. 2 weeks, if everything goes according to plan. Cheers rose. Children leaped, parents applauded. And for the first time, I saw something different hope. But standing at the street corner, arms crossed and face flushed with anger, was Anna Lynch. Her jaw was clenched, her fists clenched. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. She wasn't merely losing control. She was seeing her kingdom fall apart. That evening, after the crews departed, I filled a glass of bourbon and sat on the porch with Mia. Warm air clung to us, cicadas humming somewhere far away. She rested her head against my shoulder and whispered softly, "You know, you're not building a pool. You're building something bigger." I scrunched at my face. "Bigger," she smiled. "Building community. Something Anna will never get." I gazed out at the bright floodlights over new cement, and she was right. Anna believed she'd finished us off this summer. All she'd managed to do was ignite the spark for something bigger. Project Splashback wasn't a pool. It was a statement. As the final landscaping came in, I stood there with hands on hips, proud in a manner I hadn't been in years. The brown spot on the lawn had become a backyard haven. The splash pad glimmered, spouting jets of smooth arcs of water. The slide twisted elegantly into the pool. The waterfall whispered softly in the distance. Even the cabana had that new wood and sun scent about it. But the magic really started when my children burst in. Jason tore up the slide. Emma shrieked under the spray nozzles. Liam cannonballed into the pool so boisterously I thought the neighbors would applaud. Their bellies shook with laughter in the yard, raw, unrelenting freedom. And then I knew this wasn't mine alone. The following week, Mia and the kids assisted me in printing flyers. Maple Splash Club, grand opening. Families welcome. Free membership. Bring your sense of humor. No HOA board members permitted. Mia read the final line and giggled uncontrollably. "That's going to make Anna crazy." "That's the point," I replied with a smile. Saturday morning dawned under a scorching 98-degree sun. Cars filled the street by noon. Families flowed in, towels, goggles, coolers, lawn chairs. I had established a simple sign-in table with waivers Evan, my attorney, had prepared. Each family signed. Each child was presented with a gleaming Maple Splash Club card, their badge of dissidence. At 1 o'clock, my backyard had turned into a summer festival. Children ran between splash pads. Parents lounged under shade canopies. Laughter all around. Maria Chan carried homemade dumplings. Carlos ignited his grill. The air was filled with the scent of joy and triumph. "This is what community is like," Maria said, taking a sip of iced tea. "Not that sideshow Anna's putting on." She was correct. This wasn't defiance anymore. This was reclamation, reclaiming what Anna had taken. The HOA pool across the street stood nearly deserted. Only Anna and her diehards held out, wooden as statues in their chairs, scowling across the way. No laughter, no life. Only silence. She raised my glass of wine toward me in a derisive toast and turned away. But I didn't need her sanction. I had 20 families whooping in my backyard. The Maple Splash Club took off in a hurry. Parents donated equipment, kids organized weekend gatherings, and Carlos proposed making it official. Let's make it official, he told me. A private club, so she can't get it legally. Right on. I sat with Evan on speakerphone at night, writing up the charter. The Maple Splash Club is a private, not-for-profit guested on the grounds of Nolan and Mia Owen. Membership is complimentary for families with children under age 18. HOA board members are excluded. Evan laughed. Ouch, that'll hurt. But it's legally sound. The next weekend, we reopened. Families signed waivers. Kids flashed their cards with pride. But with each guffaw, Anna's anger intensified. Her initial blow came by mail, a notice alleging my club infringed on community harmony. Evan's response was curt and direct. Private property. Private club. No jurisdiction. Her second attempt was more devious, a city complaint. Conducting a commercial water park, she alleged. But when the inspector showed up, clipboard in tow, he discovered nothing but families laughing. No tickets, no sales, no profit. Just smiles. He left saying, "Looks like you're just having fun, Mr. Owen." Anna stood down the street, phone in hand, face red. 2 swings, 2 misses, but she wasn't finished. The following week, 2 city code officers showed up mid-afternoon. Anna trailed behind, grinning like she'd already won. "This is it," she hissed. "Your little water park is finished." The officers inspected everything, the pumps, the fence height, even chlorine levels. Kids splashed around their boots, giggling. Finally, one officer closed his folder and said, "Mr. Owen, your facility exceeds every safety code. Honestly, it's safer than most public pools we've seen this year." Applause erupted. Anna's grin shattered. She sputtered, "You can't let this circus continue." The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, this is private property. He's not breaking any laws." Anna turned crimson and stormed off, heels striking the pavement like gunfire. That night, Carlos approached with a grin. "You'll want to see this," he said, showing me a string of leaked HOA emails. In them, Anna's corruption was laid bare, secret favors for her allies, personal profits from renting the HOA pool under false maintenance closures. Maria's tone was authoritative. "We have to make this public." And at the following HOA meeting, we did. 30 moms filled the community center, waving printed versions of those emails. I stood up, held the papers aloft, and said, "Anna Lynch says that this is about order and safety." While our children were excluded for laughing too hard, Anna was holding private parties at the community pool. We were shelling out $425 a month in dues, but she had her little favorites list, residents who never received fines, never received warnings, never obeyed her rules. That wasn't leadership. That was tyranny masquerading as order. The room exploded when I spoke the truth. Parents screamed. Papers were tossed about. Even Anna's faithful followers sat with their mouths agape, betrayal written on their faces. She slammed her binder closed, the echo sounding like a gunshot, and stormed out of the meeting. But it was already too late. The emails spread like fire, screenshots, printouts, forwarded threads. By the time the evening rolled around, everyone in the neighborhood knew everything. Anna's carefully constructed empire of control was beginning to crumble. Back at the Splash Club, something amazing occurred. Families who'd once been intimidated began showing up, kids in tow, smiles wide. By the end of the week, more than 50 children sported laminated club cards on their chests. Parents brought tables, coolers, and snacks. The space became a living, breathing community. One night, I watched from beside the splash pad, the golden sunset shining off the water. Emma and Liam danced through the fountains. Jason and his friends zoomed down the slide while parents laughed and swapped food like one big family. It wasn't rebellion anymore. It was rebirth. Mia breathed next to me. "This is bigger than you now." She was correct. What started out as revenge against Anna had escalated into something she could never get her head around: unity. A community stronger than any HOA bylaw. But individuals like Anna never go away quietly. The next morning, I received a fat envelope in my mailbox, a lawsuit notice. The HOA was suing me for operating a discriminatory club. Her premise? By excluding board members, I was just as guilty as she'd been. I laughed when I read it, but inside, I knew it was war. I called Evan, my lawyer. He read the papers and snorted, "This is pathetic. Private property, private club. She's got nothing." Maybe so, but a trapped queen is the most venomous of all. By midsummer, Maplewood Heights had been split in two. On one side, our backyard rebellion, the Maple Splash Club. On the other, Anna, desperately holding on to her crumbling power. Her lawsuit unraveled quickly. Evan retaliated with charges of harassment, and before long the HOA treasury was bleeding dry. Homeowners began to get restless. Why are our dues funding lawsuits instead of maintaining the pool? At the July meeting, the tension was suffocating. Parents packed the room. Anna sat up front, clutching her binder like a shield. The treasurer cleared his throat, trembling. Legal costs have exceeded the quarterly budget by 30%, and with declining pool usage, we're nearly out of reserves. The room exploded. We're paying $425 a month for a pool we can't even use, one of the fathers yelled. Why should we pay for Anna's mess? Another mom chimed in. Anna banged her gavel. Order. This is about maintaining community standards. But her words rang hollow. The mask had slipped. All could see that she wasn't defending the neighborhood. She was defending herself. Then came the breaking point. A thunderstorm tore through Maplewood Heights 2 days afterward, lightning dividing the sky and rain lashing the ground. Come morning, the HOA pool was a mess, flooded deck, busted pumps, dirty water. The system had finally broken down, as had Anna's control. Desperate, neighbors knocked on the door. Nolan, Carlos said, rain still dripping from his hair. We need your assistance. The HOA pool shut down. Please do it for the kids. I had nearly laughed at the irony, repairing the same pool Anna had forbidden us to use. But then Maria had stepped up. Not for her, she said. For us. I gazed at my own backyard, where children were playing in clear water, and nodded. That night, I laced on my tool belt. Volunteers trailed behind, parents, teenagers, neighbors. We cleaned, fixed, rewired, and rebuilt together. 3 days later, the pump thundered back into operation. Clean, clear water burst through the filters. Cheers filled the night air. Children applauded. Parents wept. For the first time in months, the community pool shone like new. Anna attempted to spin the tale at the next meeting. Mr. Owen's procedure was improper and irresponsible, she growled. But no one was paying attention. Without Nolan, that pool would be a swamp still, yelled one old man. Carlos stood up, papers in hand. I moved for a special election to recall present leadership. The motion was passed unanimously. By mid-August, Anna and her loyalists were no longer there. Carlos was president, Maria assumed amenities, and fresh families came forward to pick up the pieces she destroyed. The party that evening was absolute magic. Fireworks, laughter, toasts of lemonade, children racing from the Splash Club to the HOA pool like bridges to two worlds. Anna alone sat on a pool chair, binder held like a life preserver. When the last scores were announced, she didn't protest. She simply stood, spun, and exited. Weeks afterwards, I learned she'd sold her home, relocating to a peaceful Florida town with no children, no laughter, no happiness. Maplewood Heights, however, it flourished. The new board destroyed her authoritarian regulations. Toys came back, laughter was encouraged, and the HOA pool was a place of harmony once more. They even wanted me to assist in redesigning it, incorporating waterfalls, splash pads, and shade seating modeled after the Splash Club. The day the remodeling was complete, we had Water Unity Day. Families celebrated in both pools free, joined alive. That evening, as the sun set low and the laughter disappeared into the wind, I knew something. Anna believed she'd punished us by removing access. But the truth is, she left us with so much more, with strength. Because true power isn't to be found in rules or fear. It's found in people, in laughter, in meals shared together, and neighbors who won't quit on one another. So if anyone ever makes an attempt at drowning your soul with control or fear, just remember, their power's only as strong as you allow it to be. Steal it back. Build your own wave. Change the tide. And maybe, just maybe, you'll end up with a water park in your backyard.